3 minutes until showtime. Two minutes until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is it that you think? What is it that you think? What's out there? What is out there? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? It's time to find out. It's time to find out. It's time to find out. We are the unexplained investigators.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Appalachian Paranormal Radio. This is your host, Jeff Porter, coming to you from Hickory, North Carolina. And this evening, we're not going to be joined by Courtney. Had another situation come up. She cannot make it this afternoon. She may be able to call in. So we'll look forward to that opportunity to be able to bring her into the conversation. We are getting into that time of year where we're beginning to get booked up for events and things going into the Halloween season. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're looking for an event, one of us to come talk to you or a group, about paranormal activity in Western North Carolina or the activities that we've done throughout the U.S. and North Carolina, feel free to reach out to us, email us, or message me on Facebook, something like that. And we'll be more than glad to bring our presentation. We do have a slide presentation with a narrative on videos, photographs, things that we've done over the years, especially with the group we have now, been around for several years. They've each had an opportunity to experience the different events and have an opportunity to maybe describe some of the photographs and things that we've captured. Even more current stuff in the last couple of years, but maybe some older things out there, and debunk maybe some things that you've seen on TV, like questions you have about that, personal questions you have about things at your house or friend's house or business. We are always open to kind of hear what you have there and give you our thoughts on it at the moment. And then if it looks like something worth looking into or you're interested in us looking into, then we could dig into it further and see if explore it and see what's there. So I want to go ahead and get started with the show. And tonight's show is, I think we've all experienced it. I think every person out there experiences the dreams when they have a loved one visit them. And it's, I'm always hesitant when we talk about, or when I talk about ghosts or spirits and dreams, because it doesn't always mean something. Sometimes it could even be your subconscious, resetting yourself, I guess is the best way to put it, or putting yourself in the check. Maybe you have a loved one that has passed that held you accountable for things, and you know that you're not on the right track, and maybe this person being in those visions or in that dream is you trying to reset yourself. So it doesn't mean that it always has to be about, not that every time you see a spirit it has to do with the communication or the spirit itself. And you're not going to always be able to decipher that. A lot of times that's what psychic or medium is great for, maybe to share with them what you've experienced. Even a regular psychologist or counselor explaining these dreams to them, they can then decipher what they mean and hopefully translate them for you if you don't figure them out on your own. So to kind of kick it off, I just want to throw out a story that was shared with me many years ago. And at the time that the person was explaining the dream to me, I really had little experience with the whole spirit visiting people in the dreams, other than maybe some of my personal experiences or things that I'd heard just for brief periods of times when we were talking to folks. But this one has always stood out and made me go back several times and question my, what I could have done different. Not that it would have changed any outcomes, not that it would have made a whole lot of difference in the outcome in general, but it would have been nice at the time to have maybe given a little bit more peace to the person. So basically, this comes down to a young lady, I consider her very young, in her teens, and the grandmother had visited her in several dreams, and she developed to the opinion that she was psychic or a medium. She had something there, and was really wanting to kind of venture into that. And that's something I don't do it, and I have no training in that. I know the concepts. I know what they can accomplish. I know some of the processes that the individuals go through, but obviously to a novice point of view. So I'm not going to, I wasn't going to sit there and try to give the person a lot of advice. I referred them to folks that I felt were proficient and very professional in those areas. And, hey, not for nothing, but go talk to this person and explain your dream to them, explain what you've been experiencing. And if this is a psychic phenomenon or something like that, then maybe, something you can venture with them and apprenticeship something and learn a little bit more about that feature of life. So I had spoken with this young lady multiple times throughout the years, and every time I spoke with her, I could tell that it was progressing towards more of an individual personality of wanting to be, I don't want to say a television personality, but a personality where people would come to her about the future, the past, present things, and seek her attention and knowledge, or her opinions, or what she received messaging from the other side. And I can't say that I doubted her, because I really didn't doubt the individual like that. I was concerned that maybe that she didn't really understand what she was doing, what she was getting into, and she had really never reached out to anyone that I just felt was credible in that field. So I had my concerns, and she always wanted to go on investigations and wanted to be a part of the investigations. But it seemed every time that she was involved in the investigation, everything seemed to have to hinge around her. Now, this is not abnormal to have the paranormal person that everything has to hinge around them, that they sense everything, that their perception of what's happening in the investigation is priority. Cold spots, not meaning that in a demonic or a paranormal way, but as I'm talking about, cold spots is an area that's neutral. We've had no activity. We don't have any, we're not having anything happening there. That you should leave those areas be, not even look into them. Come and follow me, because I'm the one that's going to get the findings. I'm the one that these spirits are talking to. And that is sometimes the case, that individuals do have that ability to draw them the majority of activity, or get the spirit involved, but it's not always the case. And you got to be really careful if you're on a paranormal team, or you're beginning to do something in this field, that you do not build that mentality. It's very destructive. It's very personally destructive. It's very destructive to teams, and it doesn't really help you out in investigations. Time and time again, when we're out there, we do not always get communication, and I'll have to switch it up to someone else and say, "Hey, I'm not getting anything here. Would you take over the EVP session, or will you take over the photography, or whatever it is? Take it over, and let's see what happens." And that's part of a team, and that's part of being able to understand that you're not going to always capture what's happening. But this young lady was very confident that she was more open to the paranormal world, the supernatural world, and was getting all these communications. And it progressively got to the point where it was not conducive to have her part of investigations. So I just kind of separated a little bit, put some space and time, and would only invite her on certain investigations, and investigations where I felt comfortable that it didn't matter who was there, we were going to get activity and let it play out. Eventually, what happens with this young lady is she misinterprets several dreams. She misinterprets some other readings she was doing. I'm not exactly sure how those readings were being done. But through these misinterpretations, she led people to make life decisions that they typically would not have made, that led to not anybody being hurt or anything, too horribly bad, but bad decisions in general. And, these individuals, knowing that we were linked in the past, and that we did communicate, did make contact with me and say, I'm just curious. This is what the person told me. This was my scenario. Why would they have told me this? Why would this have happened? And, my easy answer to that was, and I still stick with it, is, I wasn't a part of the conversation. There may have been, you remember the conversation this way. There may have been a little bit more said that you don't recall, or your mannerisms or something else may have triggered the person to interpret the conversation a different way than you are. And that could have led to the result of the message that she provided. And that's the nice way of putting it. She was probably dead wrong. but I can't, I could not tell the person that, and I couldn't tell her that because I wasn't involved in that conversation. I'm always hesitant about those things. But at the end of the day, she lost a huge amount of reputation. She lost a huge amount of reputation throughout the paranormal community, and eventually just got into a spot where she couldn't do anything. And I say all that to say this: if you're having those dreams, if you're having the dreams and spirits are coming to visit you, whether it's family or friends or, I know of times that people they'll never have known anyone, and then they'll have a dream, and then within that, shortly after waking up from the dream, they'll either see in the newspaper article somebody passed away that they had dreamed about, or there was an accident, or a few weeks later, these things will occur. That doesn't always mean that you are a psychic or you're a medium or you have these abilities fine-tuned. So if you're going down that path and you're listening to the show and you think you're going to grab some material from here to move forward with that, I caution you to, do some studying, do some research, reach out to folks that are in the field, that do it daily, and get some good advice, and actually listen to it. Take the advice. So I think every show I do, I start out with what we're going to talk about, and then I go into the what could go wrong. Because in today's paranormal field, man, it happens a lot. It's very sad to have seen a field that when I began in the 80s, and I was trying to learn, and I was wanting to be involved, and I was religious, looking at things and trying to piece together my own beliefs to what the mainstream was, and then the scientific side of it, and just trying to piece that all in there. It was very difficult, but you were very professional, and the people that you worked with were very professional. The people that you correspond with were, back then, it was a lot of letter writing and things. We're very professional, and not that everybody's not professional today, but so many times folks just get involved and immediately get overwhelmed, and then bad things happen. But let's go to the meat of the show, and our show may end up cutting short because not a lot of material here, aside from an individual's experiences. So if I've got any callers out there or anybody with any email communication wants to join us on the chat room, feel free to do so. Obviously, the material would assist in the show, but also maybe give you some answers or give you some direction to go in. And I do have referrals to people that I trust that may help you through these, and even some training that would probably be helpful. So feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than glad to share that information with you. And again, I only refer folks that I would ask them to help me do something, and I would trust them to be confidential with my information, and trust them enough that they're going to give me they're going to be truthful and honest up front with me. So, I'm not going to push you off or push somebody off on you that I wouldn't trust. So with that said, when a spirit visits you in the dream, it can mean many different things. And as I started the show off, it could be yourself, because this could be a person that, again, held you in, kept you in check. They had whatever their character was such that you admired them or respected them or feared them, and they kept you in check at some level, for, whatever it might be, whether it be spending money, eating too much food, working out too much, not working out enough, whatever, going to church, whatever it happens to be. And your subconscious may present that person to you in dreams to help get yourself back in check, because we all know when we're doing things wrong. We all know it isn't right, and we all feel that. But again, that's not always the case. And interpreting the dreams is, like I said in the beginning, it's pretty difficult. So you may have to reach out to someone a little bit more experienced and give them the scenario of your dream and see what it is, whether it be a psychic, a medium, or an actual counselor, psychologist. They all can help you with those dream interpretations. But typically, when we look at a loved one or a friend that's passed away, and they come to you in a dream, it's going to have more meaning to you in the events that you're dreaming of. One of the examples that I'll give is if you're having a dream of a happy time you had with a family member, that could be simply just a dream. Just you're really through your grieving process, you're reliving these moments of happiness. But it could be that person coming through to you in this dream to let you know that they're okay, that they're happy. And their way of presenting that to you is through this positive dream. Now, I'm cautious with that because I don't want you to think if you have a not so pleasant dream of something you and that person did in the past, or in general that person being involved, doesn't mean that the person is unhappy or anything negative's happened to that spirit. That could be the spirit trying to warn you of something coming in the future. Again, what I'm giving you is an overlook. It's kind of a broad spectrum. It's not the actual interpretation, because we'd really have to hear the dream, hear what the circumstances were of the dream, relationship with the person. There's a lot of things that go into this. And again, it's something I personally don't do. I refer you to individuals who are versed in these matters. But when we're doing an investigation, dreams are important to us. What you're experiencing while you're asleep, whether spirits coming to you in your dreams, or you're having, maybe it's just verbal communication while in your dreams. Those are important to us, because if you are having activity in your house and you're having these dreams, if you can recall the dream, and we hopefully be able to see what the dream looks like in relation to the activity in the house. So if you're having dreams and then we're able to tie activity of the house to the dreams, maybe that spirit is communicating with you while you're awake, whether it be moving a plate, moving a cup, moving forks and spoons around on the table, place settings, whatever, and then in your dream communicating something else to you. This puzzle may begin to come together and make a little bit more sense to not only your activity in the house, but your dreams, and give us a quicker resolve to what's going on with your paranormal activity. So try your best to recall your dreams. And I'm not going to tell you to marry them together and write them down and try to compare everything. That's what we do. When we come out and do an investigation, that's something that we've got forms for that, where we sit down and we write these things out, and we'll compare the notes and we see what we have. But yeah, when they come to you, it could be, more often than not, is to let you know that they're okay, that they made it to the other side perfectly fine and safe, and that they're happy. And that can be from this side as well. If maybe they haven't crossed over. Weeks ago we had Robin on the radio show, and we discussed communication. And one of the things that she brought up is, maybe this person isn't ready to move on. Maybe they're doing some other things, trying to communicate some messages before they move on. Maybe they were unhappy and they're looking for something to kind of satisfy that. Those are potentials. So maybe they're communicating that they're okay and everything's went well, but maybe they're communicating, we're still here and we're just trying to pass a message to you. And then, that's when I really kind of get keyed up, because if I'm having activity in the house, and I'm also having the people have dreams, and they're having vivid dreams, and they can tell you what they are, and the spirit was picking a box up and putting it into the wall, or going over to a certain part of the house and would point at the ground, or would just stand there. That would lead me to think that there's something they want you to find, or there's something with this location. Great example, a house that we did where we had a young spirit reach out and touch me. that activity still is occurring. And we, the homeowner done some more digging, and we found out a few more things, and we're going to do a follow-up investigation at the home. And when we do, already a lot of the findings that we had in the house during the investigation make a lot more sense. But now when we go into the house with this little more information that we had before, and especially with the passing and the age of the child, we'll be able to hopefully get more communication and dig a little deeper into maybe what the child or the spirit is trying to pass along to us. And again, that's not in a dream. That's things that are happening to us. But the homeowner is having dreams. And so now we've got to look at how these things tie together and what information we can walk away from the dream and the actual activity. The other thing that when the spirit comes, it could simply be saying, I'm here, I'm going to watch over you. I'm here to comfort you. I'm here to make you feel better. How that's communicated to you in the dream, it's really between you and that loved one. That loved one's going to know what makes you feel good. The loved one's going to know, how you would take something as a positive as opposed to something as a negative. So I would, I'd hope that during the dream, when you wake up, that you would be able to interpret it. I'm going to give you one example of a dream that I had several years ago, or a year ago or so. I was sleeping. I had this dream that I was like a third person, kind of, I don't want to say out of body experience, but maybe that's the best way to put it. But I know it was a dream. And I was dreaming that I was overhearing a conversation between two prison inmates. And the one prison inmate was bragging, and I could not tell what he's bragging about, but I could tell that he was bragging. And what I did get from the end of it is I got away with it, and they blamed someone else for it. And so as I had that dream, I kind of woke up in a sweat. And as I woke up, as I normally do, I went over to my dresser where my cell phone is, which, by the way, most of the time isn't directly beside my head. Just so everybody knows, I'm not letting all the radio waves and radiation penetrate the skull. But I went over and retrieved my phone. And upon retrieving the phone, I immediately pulled up to check messages and things like that. And oddly enough, which normally doesn't happen, my Facebook was one of the first things that came up. And there was a poster of a murder, like now I can't remember the year. But I do remember thinking to myself, that's really odd. I need to remember this. And so I sat there for a minute, and I looked at the town and the name of the young lady, and I just went back and forth. And I finally fell back asleep. And this was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm up the next morning, and the first thing I do is immediately go to my PC and start looking for this. I jump straight to Facebook because I know it was on there last, and I go through. I can't find it. Then I start searching towns and trying to recall the actual town that I had been in or that I had dreamed of. And as I get down to as I'm going through the computer, and I get down to finally figure out what town that I had woke up and tried to remember in my off my phone, I ran into an article of a young lady who had been murdered. And I want to say it was in the early 80s. I'm going to say, I don't recall 100%. Then I did a little bit more research, and I found that they originally had suspected a gentleman, and at the end of the day, they could never prove it was him. And he ends up in prison for something totally unrelated. And while in prison, they had sought out several other potential suspects, an ex being one, an ex-boyfriend of the girl, a potential love interest, things like that. And none of them had really ever panned out. And then towards the end of a follow-up years later, a follow-up article, because I think it's every year the family kind of reignites the investigation, and it basically says that this inmate has gotten away with murder. That he's not said that publicly, but everyone feels like he was the original suspect and is probably the person that killed her. And it made all sense to me then. But this was a case I'd never heard of. It's up north. I had never heard of this case. And I did reach out to Robin, and it turns out there was a common connector there. And so was the dream given to me to pass along to this person? It's a strong possibility. I didn't see the message there necessarily, but at the end of the day, there was a message, because I did reach out to the right person, and it turns out there's a connection to the investigation there and an interest in the investigation. And, it does, at that point, as far as I'm concerned, what I need to do was done. And I've been at peace with that ever since, not had any activity. And and the funny part is, when I contacted Robin, it wasn't that, hey, here this is, have you ever heard of this? It was, hey, I had this dream, then this happened. Can you tell me what it means? And so once I heard her side of everything, it made absolute sense to me why I got the message that I got. Alrighty, caller, who do I have with me?
Hey, Jeff, this is Mary.
Hey, Mary, how's it going?
It's going good, I guess. I thought I'd call in and tell about a dream that I had one time. It's more of just a, hey, guess what I dreamed about type dream. The only message that I really got out of it was a divine message, I guess. Many years ago, long before I was born, my mom had been married to her first husband, and his name was Merle, and he had hemophilia. And I've seen pictures of him. They took pictures of their wedding day and everything, and he was always either in a wheelchair or he had those arm braces, that they used for crutches, whatever.
Right.
But they were married. She had my brother Paul, and when Paul was just a couple of years old, his dad died from complications of the hemophilia. And later on, my mom married my dad, and my dad adopted my brother, and of course she had 3 more kids. And years went on. My dad died in '83. My mom died 10 years ago. And I was extremely devastated after my mom died. I mean, I really wanted to be with her. I didn't want to be with my husband. I didn't want to be with my child. I wanted to be with my mom.
Right.
And sometime after all this went on, and the funeral and the grieving and everything, I had a dream. And in this dream, I saw my mom and my dad and Merle, and Mom was in the middle, and they were walking arm in arm, smiling, and they were walking beside like a stream.
Mm-hmm.
And what really gets me is that they all look like they were in like their 30s. Dad died when he was in his 40s. My mom was 67 when she died. I don't know how old Merle was when he died. But another thing, Merle was walking. He didn't have crutches.
Right.
And so I look at it, my thoughts on that dream was that God was just letting me know, hey, they're okay. This is what you've got to look forward to. They're okay.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's the only thing I remember of that dream.
And that's a great story, because that goes back to what we, kind of at the beginning when I was talking about that sometimes the message is, again, it doesn't mean that they're speaking, it's actions, but that they're okay, and that they're happy, that they're okay. They give you that inner peace that you need.
Oh yeah. But that's my dream.
Well, it's actually a great one. I mean, it's, I hear a lot of different stories about dreams, and or from the
Mhm.
dream perspective as we're doing investigations. And a lot of times people have had those dreams and they have the dream repeatedly. And one of the reasons that I feel like it's repeated is they still have that struggle of grief and that amount of peace like you took from yours. They're not
Mhm.
accepting because they haven't accepted the loss. They're still struggling. They're in that grieving process of the loss. And if they were like in your case, they see it for what it is.
Yeah.
Then a lot of times in the future, if they have that recurring dream, it's normally only after something traumatic's happened or they've suffered another major loss.
Mhm.
And it's kind of that guardian angel thing. I want to come and comfort you and let you know that we are, and like you said, we are happy. There is something better beyond this.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, I have, of course, I never met my mom's first husband. I mean, I was born in 1967 and he died in like the mid 50s. So I, never met him, but I had seen pictures of him. But in this dream, he was standing up straight and walking. And that was just, I hadn't even told my brother this. I probably ought to tell him. I don't know how he would feel about it. I mean, but yeah, that was one of the main things about the whole dream was that there was Merle, and he was standing up.
Wow. And you said he had died in the 50s?
Yeah.
And this is way before you were born.
I was born in 1967.
Right. And there hadn't been any I suppose there had not been a whole lot of conversation about him that you can recall later in life.
No, I mean, just every now and then my brother might mention something about his dad on Facebook, but that's, that was few and far between.
Right.
But yeah.
That's amazing.
None of them were wearing glasses either. And all of them wore glasses in real life, and none of them were wearing glasses.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. Mine are kind of optional. I just choose to wear them all the time. It's a lot easier to keep up with them if they're on my head. But yeah, vision is something that we kind of all, I think, take for granted. My mother has been stricken with blindness late in life, and the unfortunate part is watching her struggle to read and then struggle to she can only see silhouettes of people sometimes, and so it's hard to watch her struggle to see the grandkids and meet new people and try to get a vision of who they are and what they look like. And, whether it be like in his case, use of legs or your vision, when they, like you said, when they come through in the dream and they're younger and they don't have these afflictions, it definitely, to me, it sends like you said, it sends a very clear message of hope and, to me, overwhelming peace. Because you just, at that point, it's like, how much more comforting can you get?
Yeah. Kind of reaffirms your faith.
It does. And anybody that's in the paranormal world that doesn't have some kind of faith at all are probably telling a fib. And it kind of goes both ways. You got the atheist or the non-believers who do this, which kind of confuses me a little bit. And then you got the rest of us out there that are wherever you lie in Christianity. So a lot of what we do will affirm basically biblically what we've been learning our whole lives and what's in the Bible. So it does go hand in hand. Yep.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Mary, I appreciate you calling in. If you think of anything else, just raise your hand there and I'll bring you back on.
Okay.
Thanks, Mary. All righty. absolutely a fantastic story, dream. I should call it a story, a fantastic dream. Goes right to the very beginning topic of why a loved one would come to you in a dream and communicate, and the message that may be communicated. And in this particular case, it was communicated in just a visual of these three individuals walking, which was important in that one had an affliction that didn't allow that previously. And then affliction that a lot of us, the majority of Americans, deal with every day is vision, and not having to have that assisted eye. So as simple as that was, it was a great message, and it actually passed along and affirms the beginning of the show. We're okay. We made it, I made it over here okay, and I'm happy. And that's, those are things oftentimes more than anything else families desire and need from that loved one. And, you can decide how that message is passed on. You can decide if you believe it's the individual as a spirit bringing that message to you, or if it's a higher power, more divine intervention, allowing you to have this experience with the spirit. That's something that each person individually has to visit internally and make a decision on. But we do have the cases where the entity or the spirit is coming to warn you of things, and they are a lot more complicated. And an example that a true example I have of that is a gentleman who came to me, and it was just all flustered, and my wife's going to die, and I don't know what to do. And of course, my first thought as a police officer was, this guy's probably going to kill her, and he's looking for a way out. He's going to tell me this story. She's going to die, and then he's going to go say, well, I had a vision this was going to happen, and I came and told you, so I didn't have anything to do with it. So I still have to be somewhat skeptical of things, because people do unique inventions to commit crimes and unique inventions to get out of trouble. But this gentleman was very adamant that his wife's going to pass away. She's going to die in a car wreck. I can tell you where she's going to die in a car wreck at, which got my, all my red lights and bells and whistles are all going off. And within about 3 years, nothing had happened. And the gentleman was like, well, it must have just been whatever. And at this point, they were divorced. They weren't together any longer. And, every now and then we kind of talk about it. We kind of come up in passing conversation. Oh, you remember that dream I had? And, how riled up I got about it. And then we ended up getting divorced. And I think we had really settled that the dream was a forewarning of the disaster in the marriage and the loss of her through not being married any longer. And it kind of went that way for a few years. Ultimately, I got a phone call, and the gentleman said, hey, I just wanted to call and let you know that, my ex-wife has passed away, and tragically. And everything that he had described in our original conversation actually played out. And almost, I don't want to say to the exact spot where the car accident occurred, but almost, I'll just put it this way, within 50 yards. I know 50 yards is a huge amount of ground to cover. But what's the potential of this gentleman having this dream 10 years earlier, so specific, and then being divorced and away, not being a part of this person's life for, I don't know what the time period was, I'll say 7 or 8 years, and then this accident happened, and it be within that area that he said, hey, this is where this is going to happen. No way of ever knowing. The one I should add this, the one major detail that was completely wrong was the vehicle. He had swore up and down it was going to be in this particular car, and it happened to be the car she owned at the time, and that was probably why he suspected it was going to happen sooner. But it turns out to be a total different vehicle, and actually one that people would probably not saw this person owning at all, financially being able to afford and things like that. But at the end of the day, I had to, 12, whatever it was, I found out 10 or 11, 12 years later, I had to sit back and look at it and think, look at the message he got, look at the time and distance between the message. But he was forewarned of that. Could he have done anything about it? No. I mean, you can't do anything about that. You get the message. What you're going to do with it is very limited, especially in that scenario. The message was so far out. He would, one, have never known the date nor the time. Two, like I said, it was a total different vehicle, so you couldn't have done anything maintenance-wise to the vehicle to ensure safety. The oddity of the accident, other vehicles being involved. I mean, so many factors going that there's not anything you could have done. So if you have these dreams and you think it's a warning dream, do not get consumed with attempting to prevent what's going to happen, because we don't know when it's going to happen. And two, there's a lot of other circumstances. In this case, he would have had to have circumvented another vehicle that ends up, I think in his original dream, it was at a traffic light. It turns out it was a stop sign. I think the occupants of the vehicle were even different than he had originally dreamed of. So there would have been no way that he could have done anything with that, let alone with the particular person that his loved one that ultimately lost their life in that. So there's a lot of pieces at play, and you're not going to always be able to. These warnings aren't going to always be something you can react to. Sometimes they are, and if they are, still be cautious and appropriate about it. If you get a dream that something's going to happen to somebody, first seek it out. Seek out someone that can try to interpret the dream for you. And when you present it, if you decide to present it to the person, make sure you do it constructively. Don't invite them over to the house, set them down, give them a soda or a beer to drink, and 3 drinks in, say, "Oh yeah, by the way, I dreamed you're going to die tomorrow." Probably not the best way to go about that. So, not only get the dreams and kind of, if you have these dreams, try to get them interpreted, not only through yourself, but through somebody that knows what they're doing or has done it before. But don't just throw people under the bus. Don't say, "Hey, you're going to die tomorrow." Nobody wants to hear that. And especially from someone that doesn't have any experience in what they're talking about. And even if they trust you 100%, that's even worse. Because now you told them they're going to die tomorrow. They're going to spend the next 2 weeks worrying, "Oh man, am I getting hit by a train? Am I going to get a plane crash out of the sky and land on me? Meteor crash into the planet and hit me direct." So be careful what you tell these folks out there. It's always best to seek out professional advice. And like I said, I'm not the person that you're going to come to for that. You tell me you're having the dream. If you're having paranormal activity in your house, I'm going to listen to the dream and see if it matches, because maybe they're trying to tell you a message while you're dreaming and while you're awake. But if it's just a dream, and even in that scenario, I'm probably going to put you in touch with somebody like Robin, or someone that does this a lot and that I trust 100%. And like I said, people that I would use to help me out if I was in that particular scenario. Well, I'm going to start winding the show down. I just kind of want to, run down a couple other keys as far as message goes. And I think we kind of covered it with Mary's dream a little bit, but sometimes the message is as simple as that they love you. They may actually say it, or they may present a favorite pet or favorite animal, favorite food, something like that. I know someone had shared with me years ago that they dreamed that they were sitting at their table and they knew that they felt like they were whatever age, 10 years old at the time again, and the plate of food sitting in front of them was the favorite food that their mother cooked, and they didn't see their mother at all in the dream, just a plate of food, but the taste of the food in the dream, the smell of the food in the dream was that of what mom had made, and that brought them peace following the passing of the mother. And I've had similar stories with not food, but items that were built, that fathers had built for children, pictures, photographs, things like that, events that family members had had together, were revisited in dreams. Not all time, not always with that person, but the picture would appear or an event would occur, and that event had only happened with that loved one. And the person took away from that this was them saying that they love me and that they're happy. And, just as we expressed with Mary, sometimes people have those dreams reoccurring. And oftentimes when I've been involved in those, it's when people they're not releasing the grieving period. Their grieving period's extended. They're having trouble accepting what's occurred. And that's where you really need, at that point, you got to really step outside of your comfort zone and reach out to that counselor or psychologist and get the assistance to help you with your grieving process. Again, if you call me with something like that, I'm gonna tell you what I can and try to help you the best I can. But I'm not gonna, I'm not that professional in that field, so I'm gonna refer you to somebody that's something they do, and they can assist you with that grieving process. Because once you're in that grieving process, and you have this dream and you get the message from it, you're going to be a lot happier. You're going to realize what the message was, and you're going to find that peace in that message. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start dropping off. I've been working on the show for next week. I will have that up hopefully this afternoon or tomorrow and get it out to everyone. I do apologize. We are behind right now on reviewing evidence, probably about 3 weeks. A lot of things going on, a lot of different events, a lot of different things happening. We do have 3 investigations pending. We got definitely one that's a previous investigation that we're going back to because we have a lot more activity occurring. And I got to just hats off to Barbara and Jeff. They're really keeping me updated. I'm not doing very well in communicating it back to them. But I know you're listening, or will at least be listening to the show tonight. So I do appreciate all the information. We do have some issues going on with some of the team members and their family illnesses and things like that. So we're kind of being stretched right now, almost to the breaking point. But just bear with us. We're going to get through it. If anyone has any questions about tonight's show or has anything they would like to add or talk to me one-on-one, feel free to contact me via our email or message me on Facebook. I did see some emails come through earlier on the computer. Wasn't anything to be addressed on the show tonight, so I'll address those individually, and definitely to the one individual from up north. I do have a couple folks up that way that I can put you in touch with. That's going to be able to help you with the question that you have. Always cautious about bringing things like that in on the show because they're a little deep and maybe a little bit more detail to it than I'm able to get out on the show at the time, and it not be fair to you or our listeners not to have a kind of an end on it. But our listeners, anything that comes through on the email that I think is that's show worthy in the future, then we'll do a recap on it and tell you how it went with the show. Anybody that listened to, I did want to add that anybody that listened to the show on the 23rd with Robin, I have been working on a video, and I'm going to send it to Robin for final approval of the photographs that she did her scrying on, the photograph scrying, and then compared to the comments and with the radio show, and then with our actual infield video, and let you see how dynamic the events were in the investigation, and that full body apparition that presented itself to the team at the time, and our reactions to that full body apparition, along with again, Robin, who had absolutely nothing to do with the investigation, has no knowledge of the area, not shared any information, and her accuracy to what we had going on that particular night. So that is something I'm working on. As soon as we're done with the final draft of that and it's been approved, we're going to put that out. It's going to be limited circulation, simply because of I believe the importance of the evidence that was documented there, and it's something I don't want stolen and shared all over the internet. Something I don't want, these TV folks get their hands on it and they use it for their own or do something. Now that so the people that I care about seeing it, you're going to be able to see it. But I don't need any of these producer folks. They've been scalping our YouTube a little bit. I don't want them coming in there and just snatching this one up. So it's going to be very limited access and very controlled. So it's probably not going to be a downloadable feature. But you will absolutely, I think you're going to find it amazing. It's one of the things kind of held us off on getting some of the other evidence done and finalized. Absolutely, probably, hands down, probably one of the best investigations that we've ever had. I know I say that time and time again. We've had a lot over the years, some really great catches out there. This one was probably one of my personal best that I've seen, but also probably one of my biggest failures as far as being able to document it. I spoke in depth with some other colleagues out there in the paranormal world over the last few weeks, and all in compliance and agree that probably not anything else I could have done differently, given the circumstances that we were in. And some of the amazing, takeaways is, all the misinterpretation of cameras that we do and taking photographs. This particular image, this particular time, the camera's getting nothing. We can see it with the naked eye. We can see it in the viewer, but the camera's getting nothing with flash or without flash. So, in a total opposite to what we're used to in the paranormal field, where a flash will give you all kinds of potential orbs or give you all kinds of potential fog and mist. In this case, we had the exact reverse. The camera's giving us nothing, but we're able to see it with our naked eye and through the viewer. So, like I said, as soon as I get that put together, it's probably another month out before it's completed. It's probably going to be part of our October. No, I'm not saying October release. It'll be before then, but part of our going into the Halloween release. So, keep your eyes open for that. And once I have it ready, we'll be announcing it. And so the next 3 shows should be they're lined up. I should be able to get the information out there for you, so you can do your own little bit of own research, and come back and maybe call in and ask some questions about particular incidences or things that you're interested in. All right, folks, this is Jeff from Hickory, the host of Appalachian Paranormal Radio. I'm signing off. Everyone have a good evening.
What is it that you think? What does it mean? What's out there? What is out there? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? It's time to find out. It's time to find out. It's time to find out. We are unexplained investigators. We are unexplained investigators.